The areas that we work are in rural Tanzania, villages that don't have water or solar power. They're extremely poorly mapped, and often local officials lack maps of their area. Urban Tanzania, like Dar es Salaam, as many of you have just been hearing, is very well mapped. This is Dar es Salaam. Romani Huria largely have mapped that to an extremely good level of detail. However, when we travel to the villages where we work, the map looks like that. When I told Ugly this, she didn't believe me, but actually when she looked, it was true. One of the villages that I go to very often is in Kigoma in western Tanzania, quite near the Burundi border. When I first started going, it looked like that. You couldn't find it, there was nothing on the map at all. But from November last year, it looked like that because there was a big missing maps project. Because of the Burundi refugee camp in that area, there was a missing maps project to do the road network and residential areas, which was fantastic. So that's what Zeze village looked like, but it wasn't named. This is a village of 8,000 people, so it's great to see the roads that are there, but if you actually wanted to find it at that point, you couldn't. So what we started to do is we started to try and map rural Tanzania. So I go out to Tanzania twice a year, travel around rural communities on daladallas and motorbikes and buses, etc. And we started using EpiCollect, which is an app designed by Imperial College. So using that to map locations and try and get all the local people that I met who had smartphones involved in doing the same. So that's the sort of data that was collected in EpiCollect. So a photograph. So we designed this form in English and Swahili, and people were uploading data. Right, so we were focusing on EpiCollect, but also on OpenStreetMap. So where people had laptops and a degree of connectivity, then we were training people in using OSM as well on the ground. So this is the map of Zeze now. So it has a number of different points, churches, water points, schools, etc., added either via OSM by people in the village or on maps.me or EpiCollect. So as I said, our biggest project is the Safe House in Mugumu, and it's run by an amazing woman called Rovi, who is an FGM survivor herself, and a lot of her work involves going into the surrounding villages and advocating against FGM, and also telling girls that they have rights not to be forcibly cut. When she was forcibly cut at age 12 and nearly died, she had nowhere to run to, which is why she wanted to set up the Safe House. But her work is hampered by the fact that the maps of that area were very poor, and most of the villages that she's working in weren't on any map. So we started trying to map that area in a number of ways. Firstly, through friends at Romani Huria, we found out about the Tanzania Open data for schools, and we realised that if you added schools, then by default you're naming a village. So we set up Google Sheets with some simple instructions for getting started on mapping schools. We uploaded to Google Sheets the data, and thank you to many people that helped with this. And we recruited over 200 volunteers from UN online volunteers. And so using these coordinates, they pasted them into OpenStreetMap and basically traced around the building and named it to add a school. And they added on this sheet whether they were able to add it or not. We were still using EpiCollect at this point, but there were huge issues with it, largely because any data you uploaded then has to be manually put into OpenStreetMap or put in some way, and the mapping capability is really quite poor. So when we found out about the new version of Maps.me that allowed you to actually enter things directly, we started using that instead. And I have to say that people that we've introduced it to in Tanzania found it absolutely brilliant, because it obviously shows them exactly where they are, and they can actually start to get a sense of the map of their community, if it exists, and see in real time their points appearing on the map. And obviously you can use it for routing and so on. However, Maps.me at the moment is customized for a more Western audience, perhaps. I mean, some of the things that you can add are not necessarily relevant. So we've been working with Ilya, is he here? Yeah, there he is, who's developing a more relevant version for rural Africa. So, how we've incentivized people to actually add points is by having small-scale competitions. Now, we've had no funding for this project whatsoever. We're both volunteers, but we've offered small prizes of 100,000 shillings, which is about £30, but that's actually really motivating. So, you can see that these are the points that have been created in Maps.me in Tanzania, and we're getting more and more people involved. So we're promoting this via a Facebook group, WhatsApp groups, social media and so on, but largely talking to people on the ground. We have local reps in the areas that we work, getting them involved, trying to get local ambassadors and so on, but on no budget. So this is the Zeze village, which now is named on OpenStreetMap. These other villages were not named, so putting things on Facebook saying, does anybody know the names of these villages, right, etc. And now they are named. However, there are some issues with this. As you can see, you're getting duplicates, and that's another of the issues with using Maps.me, because it's not, the data that people are using on their phone isn't completely live. So a lot of people have issues with actually the GPS on their phone as well, because generally people are using their own phones. They tend to be cheap phones. So as I said, we have a WhatsApp group, so trying to motivate people to keep going and keep the momentum going by posting up things and people asking questions and so on has been quite motivating. Also, we've set up a task manager for the area around Mugumu. So this is using volunteers anywhere to map from satellite images. And to promote that, we had a triple mapping party in London, Vilnius, where Agli is from, Dar es Salaam, and we also had people from Nairobi and at the other places in Tanzania, including the Safe House. So this is some of our colleagues at Ramani Huria mapping in Dar es Salaam, and these are people at the Safe House mapping. So this is continuing. This just shows some of the stats about how Mugumu was mapped before and how it's being mapped now. Okay, and this is a short video, hopefully, of Roby talking about this. I don't know if there's sound on this. Okay, maybe I won't show the video. So basically, she's using the maps to plan, to ensure that she's reaching all of the villages around Mugumu, and to plan the journeys to make sure that there's a route, particularly in the rainy season, and to understand how much fuel they need. Also, having better maps of that area, the idea is that then also girls know where the safe house is, and they know their routes to reach there. In the there's a cutting season in Tanzania. It's in December, and last cutting season, over 200 girls came to the safe house.
What is cutting? How will they use? Okay.
Female genital mutilation. So, and some of them ran through the night to get there, reach there barely in clothes, not even with shoes. We started using mapillary a little bit, so you're looking forward to using this more. So these are some images around the area near Mugumu, and this is just taken from my smartphone from Dala Dala when I was travelling. So what we're hoping to do next, we want to develop a Swahili version of Maps.me that has a cut down list. The limiting factor really is access to smartphones, so we're really would really love to get more smartphones to people out in the ground, so if anybody can help with that. They don't even have to be very good, they certainly don't have to be new. The next project we're going to do is in the area around Maswa, which is in central Tanzania. There's a big issue with early marriage there, and also the clinics and so on are very poorly mapped. We really need more validators involved, so the volunteer mappers that we're using from places like UN Online Volunteers and so on, they're generally very new to mapping, and we're trying to do what training we can remotely, so if there's anyone able to help with that, that would be fantastic. We're hoping to do a lot more with mapillary. We're going to carry on doing these mapping competitions, but at the moment, even though it's like £30 a month, we're both volunteers and we're funding it ourselves, so if anyone can help with that, it would be amazing. And Vilnius are carrying on doing mapathons there. What we'd really like to do is to involve more people on the ground in Tanzania as doing mapping training and promoting this. It would be great to have a very small budget to incentivise people to do that, because they've got to eat. So thank you to some of the people that have helped us. I think the questions is at the end. Thank you.